Na 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 na, and plenty more of those.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles, Governor. Hottest job in the business. My name's John. His name is Andy. Everybody said, you better watch out. Man, she's going to turn you in. And me, I thought that I'd looked out. Now look at the trouble that I'm in. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to selected by Brother Andy. What do you got for us today?
Well, I've got a band that you're somewhat familiar with, at least in part thanks to me in a previous episode, but that I am very familiar with, playing in a venue that I'm somewhat familiar with, but you are very familiar with. We're going to be revisiting Cracker. We did back in 2023, we did Low, which I think was one of your your favorite songs I offered in that year, or one of them
That was a
among
top
them.
three, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, so you really enjoyed Low. So I thought, let me go back to Kerosene Hat and pick off another really great track off that quintessential 90s album. And that is Get Off This. And it is being performed live on Later with Jools Holland. So excuse the grainy nature of the video. We are talking mid 90s here. But it is still fun to watch and see the band play, and it's always good to check out some Jools. So please go off, give that a watch, a listen, and then come back and let me know what you thought of it, maybe how it holds up against Low, and how you enjoyed it.
Well done.
Scotches, only jeans, dirty hair and titty wings. What you see, man, we got these questions. Is it true that you sold your soul? I say, hey man, I don't know, let me a quarter, won't you? I'll call my accountant. Let's get off this, get on with it.
Okay, so really good start. Immediately, it's sort of high energy. Yeah, it's kind of like a bluesy based, fairly up tempo song. Great energy from the rhythm section straight away, and then that lovely sort of quacking wah wah sound from the guitar there. And then in comes your man, Mr. Lowry, with his sort of like fairly deadpan delivery, which I've always loved. It's taken me a while to get acclimatized to his voice, his delivery. He says something about dirty jeans and titty rings, I think it was. Something about questions, and then someone asked to borrow a quarter, and he has to ring his accountant. So there's immediate air of cynicism about this straight away, which is standard. It sounds really good. The visual quality is always can always be a bit sort of duff with these old later videos. Usually it's ripped from somebody's VHS copy, but the sound quality is decent, and it's they always had a very good mix on Letter. So yeah, enjoying this. I think they were just getting to the chorus, so I'm just going to go back a wee bit. It's a short song.
Questions. Is it true that you sold your soul? I say, hey man, I don't know, let me a quarter, won't you? I'll call my accountant. Let's get off this, get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start to spin it. Get off this, get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start to spin it. your toll has come around, the judgment's stone. Yeah, all we're trying to do is make a fortune. Yeah, we ain't got no government loans and no one sends a check from home. And get this, we're just doing what we wanna. So let's get on this, get on with it. If you wanna change the world, shut your mouth and stop this minute. Get on this, get on with it. If you wanna change the world, shut your mouth and stop this minute. Well, the guitar player's stepping out in Hollywood and saying he's just trying to get some sleep, but everyone's complaining. Are you truly deeply cynical? It's boy, you know I love you so, but no one knew your name. You were heartless. Let's get on this, get on with it. If you wanna change the world, shut your mouth and stop this minute. Get on this, get on with it. If you wanna change the world, shut your mouth, yeah, get on this, get on with it. If you want.
I won't stop again after this, but yeah. So really nice, almost anthemic chorus. I'm not quite sure what they're getting at. Let's get on this and get off this and get on with it. You want to change the world, shut your mouth and start to spin it, and then it sort of changes again. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start this minute. Get off this and get with it. I'm thinking he's talking about the music industry, and maybe hypocrisy. Yeah, because then the lines after that, it's something about an Ayatollah, and all we're trying to do is make a fortune. So I don't know if it's talking about like, is this something else they're talking about? We're just doing what we want to. So I wonder if it's like virtue signaling within the business, whether there's the music business establishment or the established acts within that business, or probably both actually. He's definitely having a pop. And then it went into sort of like, I think it was like a bridgy part bits. There was like chorus and they just went straight into it 100 miles an hour. So if it was a bridge, it was the kind of bridge I like, where there's no tossing about with the silly chord changes or musical wankery. And they were straight back into the chorus and round again. It sounds great. The band sounds really tight. You're getting these odd little embellishments I can hear at the end of lines from the bass. But the drummer's really energetic. The guitars all sound good. His falls fine great. Yeah, what's not to like about this? Just got there. Yeah, really enjoyed that. It's excellent. It was quite, on the face of it, musically pretty simple, catchy, alternative indie rocky type song. Yeah, hugely sing along with all. But yeah, I thought everyone sounded great. I love the wah wah bits with the guitar. always a sucker for them. Um, they were definitely pointing their sharpened sticks at somebody. I have feeling it sounds like it's within the music industry, but I think Andy can help us out with that. So yeah, I'd love to know the lyrics a bit more because he was quite an interesting guy with his lyrics. But yeah, great. I'm really surprised I didn't hear this at the time. I think this is like 90, 94, 95 around then. Um, it's interesting you should mention Ayatollahs as well because that was a tricky time. Sam and Rushdie. Um, but yeah, really enjoyed it. So it's a great song. So let's get back with Andy and find out a bit more.
All right, so you're back. You got off that. You got on this. What do you have to say about Get Off This by Cracker?
Different to the Prince version, I thought. Um,
True.
yeah, so I think I mentioned this in the previous one. It was a while ago, so I can't remember what I said. But I was a big fan. Still, I'm a big fan of Camper Van Beethoven. They're quite a sprawly, messy band, but when they hit really well. Um, and back in the day when this was around, was a sort of time where you used to get like little slips of paper and cards with your records, and you fill them out, and then they would send in the post to you bits of merchandise and things to promote new records or new bands or whatever. And for some reason, I don't even remember what record label it was, but I got through the post a thing saying Cracker, new band, and it was their version of White Riot by Clash, and it was a very countrified version.
Hmm.
And I thought it was all right as a novelty thing, but I didn't really take Cracker seriously, and and that was it. And then you introduced me to Low and this album, and I was really surprised by the sound, but also the fact that either I dismissed it in my head, but I don't remember anyone else talking about Cracker in this on this side of the pond at the time. So it was a real shame because I really liked David Low and all the other bits. So yeah, we're up to date now. Watching this video, it was really good to see them in a live setting. And as you mentioned, we found out before through other episodes, the visual quality with these later shows may not be high definition because it's usually uploaded from somebody's VHS
Yeah,
copy.
exactly.
But the audio is usually pretty good, even if that VHS copy isn't that great, because they had a really nice mix and balance with it later, and then subsequently it got even better as they went on through the series. But this is an early one, I can tell for the set and everything that's in the first 3 or 4 series, definitely.
Yeah.
We should have put it sort of 94, 95, somewhere around there. Really interesting song. The song has contrasting aspects to it. So it opens and there's a great energetic, almost swaggering live performance to this. But the sentiment, for what I can make out of it, has a real touch of cynicism and it's anti-establishment vibes. So you've got the two things going on. And by establishment, I'm not sure if it's the record industry itself as an establishment or the established names within it. As I said, I think this is around 94. So one name in particular comes to mind, but we'll get onto that. So song starts with a really nice sort of scuzzy blues feel, quite up tempo though, quite upbeat as well. And we have a little snatch of that sort of wild guitar riff in there, which is the open phrase, which is so good and I'm a big sucker for, which comes back later, thank goodness. In comes Solari with his sort of fairly deadpan delivery, which I've always loved from Camper Van Beethoven days as well. But it takes me a little while to acclimatise to his delivery. So I'm getting something at the start about dirty jeans and I think titty rings. And it's about we got these questions, and then he says he'll call his accountant when someone asks him to lend them a quarter. I think nowadays they call their lawyer to see if it counted as a payoff. But anyway, we then launch into a chorus, which happily for me is very easily discernible. Let's get off this and get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start to spin it. And then they kind of repeat it. Get off this, get on with it. We'll change the world, shut your mouth and start this minute.
Mm-hmm.
The group vocals in this make this a really catchy, easily sing along, kind of almost anthemic chorus. I wonder what get off this and get on with it refers to, whether it's sort of get off the sort of bullshit ride and actually get on with doing something. I don't know. But it feels like he's pointed at some hypocrisy or some absurdity. Um, the whole band sounds really great. Really energetic rhythm section drives this along. After the chorus, we get another dose of that squawking guitar action, which I said I'm always a sucker for. Sounds great. And the next verse, I hear something about Ayatollah's judgment. I think it's stone you. All we're trying to do is make a fortune, which I thought was really funny. And there was an interesting line to, if it's 94, 95, it'd be a very interesting time to reference the Ayatollah. With asking Mr. Salman Rushdie about that. But it always makes me think of there's a TV program called Not the 9 o'clock News that was on in the late 70s, and it was Rowan Atkinson's starting vehicle, as well as Griffiths Jones, Pamela Stevenson as well, and all that. And there's a great song in there where they do. It's kind of a love song to the spiritual leader of the revolutionary Iran, and it's Ayatollah, don't come any closer. It's just really funny. Anyway, funny times. So it's definitely something in this about the music industry and attitudes. Perhaps it's about virtual signaling, I think, because it is a turn. All we're trying to do is make a fortune and being very unapologetic about it. And he says, he finishes off the verse with, "But get this, we're just doing what we wanna." So there's a lot of tongue being held firmly in cheek here,
Right.
which shows their humour. So we get another round of the chorus, which segues without even a fag paper to separate it into another section, which I guess would be the bridge. But he races through it at like 100 miles an hour. So it's my kind of bridge because there's no time for stupid chord changes or instrumental wankery. And we go straight back into the chorus without blinking. And they're really building a head of steam here. Repeated like "shut your mouth," and then they launch an armada of namas. We sort of go through, and again, it's very sort of sing along. So the guitars sort of circle the wagons, and at the end of it, I'm getting a few embellishments from the bass. At the end of each line, he's doing his little equivalent of high kicks, and then they finally sign off. It feels like a lot happened in well under 4 minutes. It really raced through. So this is a really, really great live performance, I thought. Very catchy song. I'm so surprised that I can't remember hearing this at the time over here. I imagine it must have done well for them. It's certainly a hell of a lot more marketable than Camperman Bay Over. But yeah, it does feel laden with irony. So I'd love to understand who they were pointing their sharpened sticks at. But yeah, in terms of this contrasted to Low, I think Low was a classic indie rock sort of song. This is almost a bit more upbeat poppy, indie pop almost. Really catchy. They're both, quality and both really likable.
Yeah.
I'd have to listen to Low again, but I mean, it did make my top three. I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was just as good, but in a slightly different delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I really, really, really enjoyed this.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. I think it's packaged in this with more sheen intentionally, given the tongue firmly planted in cheek and kind of like what they're going for here. But go on, John. Yeah.
Yeah, it just made me think actually of that. I think it was the last time you listened to that really upbeat The Feelies song that was live on Letterman. It has that same sort of rollicking nature about it that you get caught up in it. It's a different song, obviously, but
And I'll say this, and I think I'm alone on an island on this, but I don't know what it is about the way he scans the words in the verse. But for some reason, it reminds me of like a sped up version, or just in the way it scans, as "Take a Walk on the Wild Side" by Lou Reed, where it's that na 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 na. It's just like plucked her eyebrows on the way. It reminds me of the same way like he scans this, but sped up a bit more. And I'm probably alone in thinking that, but every time I hear it, for some reason I go to Lou Reed when I hear that opening few lines of this song every time.
Well, there's something about Lou Reed that he can express emotions while being emotionless in his
Yeah,
voice.
yeah,
You know, it's a very weird. You know, his delivery is very odd,
yeah,
and at first glance, it's almost like Sad Android or something
yeah,
going on
yeah,
there.
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
but it isn't.
Yeah.
And he's not quite so extreme, but he has got this deadpanness to him.
Yes, he does. Absolutely. That's probably where there's some similarity. So as mentioned earlier, this is the second time we featured the band on the channel. So I'll try to avoid recanvassing a lot of the information that we discussed on that episode from 2023. But there might be some areas of slight overlap, given that Get Off This appeared on the same album as Low. Cracker is an American rock band formed in 1990 by lead singer David Lowery and guitarist Johnny Hickman. Shortly after Lowry's former group, as you mentioned, Camper Van Beethoven, disbanded in 1990, he began demoing material along with Hickman. The two recorded a demo tape, later nicknamed Big Dirty Yellow Demos, by the group's fans. And by 1991, they formed a full band with the help of several different drummers and took on the name Cracker. The next year, they released their eponymous debut album, which contained the radio hit Teen Angst, What the World Needs Now. That went on to peak at #1 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart. This was followed by a second single entitled Happy Birthday to Me. The album went on to sell more than 200,000 copies. A year later, Cracker issued its best-selling album, Kerosene Hat. The album included hit singles Low and Get Off This, as well as a cover of the Grateful Dead song Loser. The lineup on the album consisted of David Lowery, vocals, rhythm guitar, acoustic guitar, Johnny Hickman, lead guitar, backing vocals, and lead vocals on one track, Davey Farragher, bass and backing vocals, and Michael Urbano on drums. The album sold almost 500,000 copies that year and eventually nearly reached platinum status. This was in no small part due to the success of the album's singles. The lead-off track from the album, Low, had a major impact on the album's success. Upon release, it became, as noted by Spin magazine, a ubiquitous signpost of the alternative as the new mainstream era. The second single from that album, Get Off This, was written in response to naysayers who accused Cracker of selling out and making music that was more mainstream than Lowry's previous band, Camper Van Beethoven. Thematically speaking, the song declares the band's independence and desire to write songs that come from an honest place. The song peaked at #6 on the modern rock charts. Over at Americana UK, Stephen Rafferty wrote a piece on the album entitled Classic America Albums, Cracker's Kerosene Hat, in which he offered up the following. The first thing that needs to be said about the album is that its commercial success didn't demand a departure from what the band does well. The success shouldn't detract from the album's esteem when it's measured by more important standards. Low and Get Off This are as important to the album as they were to the audiences listening in 1993. They aren't concessions to the label, they're pillars of the project. Adding, the next thing that needs to be said about the album is that any two tracks from the project could have ended up doing the work that got foisted onto those successful singles. There are deep cuts on the album, but there isn't any filler. Every track on the album is a piece of a masterfully and maturely crafted album that was just right for that weird summer, 1993. Jason Gross of Rock and Roll Globe wrote a 30-year retrospective on the album and noted, the album's momentum manages to keep going with the funky Get Off This, one of the band's best songs, which could be seen not only as a poke at hippies and idealists, but also at fans who are disappointed that Cracker ain't Camper. I do think that of late we've talked about the Gen X's view on the hippie movement and how it sort of fell to pieces with the realist approach of that generation, the Gen X. And I couldn't help but think of this track when those conversations were being had. Another reason why it made the cut, on top of you knowing Camper better, obviously, than you know Cracker, and it also being because hats off to you for not you're not comparing it to, well, you are in that you're like, it isn't this, but that doesn't make it less likable. It just makes it different, and that's okay. Fans in real time when this came out were far less open-minded as you are being now, which can be understandable, right? Like we've all been in the throes of what we want, disappointed about what we've just lost, and what you get in return. But I mean, this is a quintessential American 90s album, and it's fabulous. Uh, the chorus brings home all the messages all in one ball of wax. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start to spin it. So, lyrics. All these cats with holy jeans, dirty hair, and titty rings. Say, what's your scene, man? We got these questions. Is it true that you have sold your soul? I say, hey, man, I don't know. Lend me a quarter, won't you? I'll call my accountant. Let's get off this and get on with it. If you want to change the world, just shut your mouth and start to spin it. Get off this and get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start this minute. Pretty little ayatollahs come around to judge and stone you. All we're trying to do is make a fortune. Yeah, we get on. We pardon me. Yeah, we ain't got no government loans, and no one sends a check from home. But get this, we're just doing what we wanna. So let's get off this and get on with it. You want to change the world, just shut your mouth and start to spin it. Get off this and get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start this minute. Well, the player staying out in Hollywood and saying he's just trying to get some sleep, but everyone's complaining. Are you truly deeply cynical? 'Cause boy, you know that I loved you so when no one knew your name and you were pompous. Get off this and get on with it. If you want to change the world, just shut your mouth and start to spin it. Get off this and get on with it. If you want to change the world, just shut your mouth and shut your mouth. Get off this, get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start to spin it. Get off this, get on with it. If you want to change the world, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Yeah. Nah, 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 and plenty more of those. In the post-Nirvana climate of the early 90s alternative music, Kerosene Hat went gold and would be Cracker's most popular album to date. 20 years after the album's release, webzine Spectrum Culture noted, in the cases when both music and lyrics are on the mark, and there are many, the record achieves something close to greatness, says Lowry. We've always been a country roots rock band. We've always leaned on American root stuff, whether it's soul, blues, or country. Fortunately, our sound somehow fit into modern rock radio back when grunge had taken over the entire world. And Hickman added, we kind of snuck in the back door by being a band that had something to say and were lucky enough to write a catchy 3-minute song. So yeah, very humble about their approach and their popularity during a time when it seemed American rock radio waves had no trucks or room for anything that wasn't grunge music or immediately grunge adjacent. There were these handful of bands like Cracker that slipped through the cracks. And we're better for it because it was becoming oversaturated. It was just about when everyone started to do the post grunge thing, and here comes this more, as he put it, this roots music, with a modern tinge of the through a rock lens that does beg or suggest country music and blues based music, which was refreshing at the time, and still is, frankly, when you go back and give Kerosene Hat a listen. As many of the critics said, this thing is evergreen. It wasn't just good then; it's good always. So I'm glad you like this track, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Excellent, excellent.
I think I should be checking the album out.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would behoove you to do just that, especially, and I would agree with it, but you've got people who have noted, it could have been any two tracks on this album that would go on. And there were actually three singles off this, but these first two were kind of the big ones. But and I think there's some validity to that. I think this whole album is enjoyable go through. So I'm sure you'll like some more than others, but you won't hate any of it. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about that. We could chat about it at some point off camera when you've given it all a go. But folks out there, whether you've given this entire album a listen or not, tell us what you thought of this track. If there's other stuff by these guys that John should probably check out, feel free to drop it down in the comments field below. Would love to hear what you guys have to bring to the table. Also, please like, share, and or subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. It goes a long way to help us here at the channel. It only costs you a couple seconds of your time. So thank you so much. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next episode of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.